Fagioli exposed. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, who work at Nassau, begin to take an interest in creationism. Their superiors, concerned, send them to see the psychologist Professor Fagioli, a questionable character determined to get them fired by making them seem insane. But during the sessions, it turns out that the real lunatic is him. Igor uncovers his plan and exposes him in front of the superiors. In the end, Fagioli, now clearly dangerous and unstable, is immediately fired and escorted out by security. Nassau, main hallway. Fagioli is leaving the building, escorted by security. The main door opens. Outside, police and ambulance are waiting. Inspector Gadger stands in front, 2 paramedics behind him. Gadger, freeze. Police. Everyone stops. Fagioli, what? What's going on? Gadger, you can't run anymore, Fagioli. We've got you. Fagioli, who are you? What are you talking about? Gadger, I'm Inspector Gadger and you're under arrest. Take him. 2 officers handcuff Fagioli and escort him to the ambulance, along with the 2 medics. Boss, what's going on? Gadger, long story, but in short, Fagioli is a dangerous psychopath, and you were all at serious risk. Igor, finally got his promotion. Banana, what? Igor, yeah, from psychologist to honorary patient. Part 2, flashback. Part 2, flashback. Psychiatric hospital. Dr. Strizzini is interviewing a patient. Strizzini, good morning, Fagioli. Did you take your pills today? Fagioli's sitting in the armchair, eyes wide open and hair sticking out in all directions. Fagioli, yes, sir. Strizzini, so? Tell me, did you punish yourself again? Fagioli, yes, sir. 1 hour on my knees on dried chickpeas after hoeing. Strizzini, and what did we say about the hoe, Fagioli? Fagioli, that I mustn't use it anymore. It's for my own good. Strizzini, so why did you use it again? Fagioli, my father ordered me to. Strizzini, your father isn't here, Fagioli. We've been through this, haven't we? Fagioli, he talks to me. He talks to me through the mirror. Strizzini, I see. Fagioli drops the sock and starts crying. Fagioli, Tony, he fell down. Strizzini bends down to pick up the sock, but Fagioli pulls a hoe out from under one of the sheets. Fagioli, no, Dad, the doctor said I mustn't use the hoe anymore. Fagioli, changing voice. Hoe, son, a man who doesn't hoe isn't a man. The camera shows Fagioli's cold, blank stare as he prepares to strike Strizzini with the hoe. End of flashback. Igor, the world is full of surprises. Some have an ace up their sleeve, and some have a hoe under the sheet. Part 3, Nassau, main hallway. Inspector Gadger is explaining to the scientists the reason for Fagioli's arrest. Gadger. So he pretended to be his own psychiatrist and got himself hired at Nassau. But now we've got the evidence that nails him. Flashback. Psychiatric hospital. Fagioli is washing his face in the small bathroom of the office. In the other room, Strizzini's body lies on the floor. Fagioli kneels over him and takes the ID badge from the pocket of his coat. Fagioli, a real psychiatrist? Watch and learn, Strizzini. Tony, he can't watch anymore. Aha! The TV turns on by itself. Inside, the psychologist appears. Psychologist, I'm proud of you, Fagioli. Today you're promoted from psychologist to psychiatrist. Congratulations. Fagioli goes to his room, opens the wardrobe, and grabs a duffel bag that was inside. Fagioli, Dad's clothes, I couldn't leave them here. Tony, especially the chickpeas in there. Ha! Father, Fagioli changing voice. Well done, Fagioli. Time to go do some hoeing in the open air. The flashback ends with Fagioli walking out of the room in Strizzini's clothes, leaving the hospital unnoticed. Igor, a bathroom, a corpse, and a badge. That's all it takes to get hired at Nassau. Part 4, Nassau, Main hallway. Ravioli. I can't believe it. I told him my whole life story. Banani. Don't remind me. I even told him about the clown in the elevator. Papaya. I'm speechless. How did he pull it off? Gadger. He literally stole his psychiatrist's identity. Then a few forged documents. And that was enough. Boss, I still can't believe it. I never suspected a thing. Igor. Yeah, a guy with a hoe in his bag, a talking sock, and an obsession with vegetables. Totally normal around here at Nazal. Days later, boss's office, Nazal. The boss is standing behind his desk. In front of him sit Papaya, Banani, Ravioli, and Igor, all in a row. The air is tense, but no one dares to speak first. Boss, official tone. All right, gentlemen. After the little incident with Dr. Fagioli, or rather, former patient Fagioli, the higher-ups have decided you need to redo the evaluation. Ravioli. All over again? Banani, nervously. If clowns used to be my phobia, now it's psychologists. Boss, don't worry. This time it'll be a real psychologist, with real credentials, a serious professional. No hose, no talking socks. Igor, without looking up from his notepad. A groundbreaking concept, truly. Boss, you'll start Monday, one at a time, and this time, try talking more than necessary. Igor. Pity. Fagioli was the only one who listened to us enthusiastically. Everyone goes silent. The boss rubs his temples. Boss, God help us. Papaya in disbelief. Boss? Part 6. Nasal psychologist's waiting room. Papaya, Banani, Ravioli, and Igor are waiting to be called in. Banani, whispering, trying to lighten the mood. Maybe this time it's one of those psychologists who make you draw your emotions. Like clouds, suns, smiley rockets. Igor. Yeah, and maybe with 2 chihuahuas inside. Ravioli. At this hour, the only thing I could draw is a cappuccino. Banani. They say all psychologists are a little nuts. Papaya. I don't know. Let's just hope this one at least has a diploma. The office door suddenly swings open. Out steps Jack, the new psychologist. He stops for a moment, looks at each of them in turn. No smile, just silence. Jack. Good morning. I'm Jack the psychologist and I don't have time to waste. So let's get to the point. Tense pause. Jack. You'll ask yourselves the question, and it's this. Do you believe in creationism? Silence. The scientists glance at each other confused. Jack. Firm tone without raising his voice. If the answer is no, great, you can stay. The rest is just blah, blah, blah. He stares at them for a moment. Jack. If the answer is yes, and you still want to stay, you're not crazy, you're hypocrites. Pause, surprised faces. Jack. You can stay too, but one day you'll regret it. Pause. Jack. Be consistent with your beliefs. Face this decision like men, not children. Pause. Jack. Think carefully. I'll be waiting inside. Jack turns around and goes back into the office. And the 4 remain seated, motionless, mouths open. No one can say a word. Igor. Finally, a psychologist who judges us before we even walk in. Part 7. Waiting room. Banani. But seriously, do you guys really believe that God created the universe? Papaya. It's a simple reasoning, Banani. Think of a book. A book is evidence of its author. Now think of a building. A building is evidence of its builder. Ravioli. Yeah, and so? Papaya. So, the universe is evidence of its creator. Ravioli pauses to think. Ravioli. That's true, I never thought about it that way. Banani. Yeah, God is clearly the creator of the universe. So, couldn't it be him who started everything with the Big Bang? Ravioli. Good point. Why couldn't it be? Papaya. I don't really know. But I read somewhere that those 2 explanations aren't compatible. Banani. Hey, Ravioli, didn't Paco give you his number? Ravioli. Yeah, I've got it saved right here on my phone. Banani. Why don't you call him? Maybe he can explain it. Ravioli. Why not? Here it is. He even told me I could reach out anytime if I had doubts. Ravioli calls Paco. Banani. Come on, put it on speaker. Ravioli. Okay, done. Paco picks up. Paco. Hey, Ravioli, what's up? Ravioli. Hi, Paco. I'm here with my colleagues, and we had a question. I hope you don't mind I put you on speaker so they can hear too. Paco. Of course. What's the question? Ravioli. So, we're in the psychologist's waiting room. Paco. Again? How long is this evaluation supposed to last? We met last week. Ravioli. No, it didn't go on that long. Actually, they fired Fagioli. And now we have to start over with a new psychologist. Paco. Oh, okay. You scared me for a second, but honestly, it was bound to happen. That guy was way too unhinged. Ravioli. Ha, yeah, and it was spectacular. I'll tell you all the details later. Igor. Bring popcorn, Paco. This time the movie starts with a mirror. Part 8. Waiting room. Paco is still on the line. Paco. Very funny. But tell me, what's the question you mentioned? Ravioli. Well, the new psychologist asked us to decide for ourselves whether we want to stay or not, and to do so in a way that's consistent with our beliefs. Paco. Okay, I see. So, you're deciding what to do. Ravioli. Exactly. He told us that if we believe the Big Bang is wrong, then there's no point in staying at Nasal. Paco. I completely agree. Ravioli. So we started talking and we were thinking, if God created the universe using the Big Bang, then we'd be fine with that. Paco. Now I get it. But unfortunately for you, God didn't use the Big Bang to create the universe. The account in Genesis is completely different from the Big Bang, even though some people have tried to forcefully make the two line up. Ravioli. I see. Paco. But do you actually know what the Big Bang model teaches? Ravioli. Kind of, yes and no. Paco. Maybe it's better if Papaia explains it then. Papaia. Sure. The Big Bang is a story about how the universe came into existence. It says that billions of years ago, the universe began from a tiny, infinitely hot and dense point called a singularity. This singularity supposedly contained not only all the mass and energy that would become everything we see today, but also space itself. According to the story, the singularity rapidly expanded, spreading energy in space. Over vast periods of time, the Big Bang's energy is said to have cooled as the universe expanded. Some of it turned into matter, hydrogen, and helium gas. These gases collapsed to form stars and galaxies of stars. Some of those stars created heavier elements in their cores and then exploded, scattering those elements across space. Some of those heavier elements, it's claimed, began to clump together to form Earth and the other planets. Paco. Good. So I can honestly tell you this origin story is entirely fiction. Ravioli. So Christians who believe in it are making a mistake? Paco. It's especially troubling that many Christians have been misled by the Big Bang, maybe without realizing its atheistic foundations. They've chosen to reinterpret the clear teachings of Scripture in an effort to make them fit secular beliefs about the origin of the world. Ravioli. Okay, but why exactly isn't the Big Bang compatible with Genesis? Paco. First, we need to understand why this theory was invented in the first place. Papaia. To explain the origin of the universe? Paco. Yes, of course, but ultimately, the Big Bang is a secular origin story. When it was first proposed, it was an attempt to explain how the universe could have come into being without God. Part 9. Waiting room. Paco is still on the line. Ravioli. So basically, the Big Bang is an alternative to the Bible? Paco. Exactly. It makes no sense to try to add it to the Bible. Let's take a look at some of the deep differences between the Bible and the secular origin story of the Big Bang. Ravioli. Like what? Paco. The Bible teaches that God created the universe in 6 days. Genesis 1, Exodus 20:11. From the context in Genesis, it's clear that these are ordinary days, that is, 24-hour days, because they're marked by evening and morning and listed in sequence, second day, third day, etc. By contrast, the Big Bang claims that the universe evolved over billions of years. Ravioli. Yeah, I remember that. We talked about it a lot. Banani. It's true, Ravioli. We had almost forgotten. We saw that there's plenty of evidence that the Earth and the universe are not millions of years old. Paco. Also, the Bible says the Earth was created before the stars, and that trees were created before the sun. But the Big Bang teaches exactly the opposite. Papaya. Yeah, because it's based on evolutionism. Paco. Then, the Bible tells us the Earth was created as a paradise. The secular model says it was a molten mass. The Big Bang and the Bible clearly disagree about the past. Banani. That's true. We also saw that if death had existed from the beginning, then Jesus' sacrifice on the cross wouldn't make any sense. Papaya. Yes, death came as a consequence of sin. Paco. Many people don't realize that the Big Bang is not just a story about the past, but also about the future. The most common version of the Big Bang teaches that the universe will keep expanding forever and eventually run out of usable energy. According to that story, it will remain in that state forever, something astronomers call heat death. But the Bible teaches that the world will be judged and renewed. Paradise will be restored. The Big Bang denies this fundamental biblical teaching. Ravioli. Yeah, in fact, Jesus said he will return to judge the world, and Revelation shows us how everything will be recreated from scratch. Part 10, Waiting Room. Paco is still on the line. Paco. The Big Bang also presents several scientific problems. Big Bang supporters are forced to accept with a kind of blind faith a series of concepts that are completely incompatible with real observational science. Let's explore some of the inconsistencies between the Big Bang story and the actual universe. Ravioli. Like dark matter? Paco. Yes, for example. What do you know about magnets? Banani. Like the ones in a compass or the ones that stick to the fridge? Paco. Yes, exactly those. Ravioli. I don't know much. Magnets attract iron? Paco. That's right. And they also have another curious property. Banani. Oh yeah, when you put two magnets close together, they either attract or repel each other, depending on how you turn them. Paco. Exactly. We usually say that magnets have two poles, a north pole and a south pole. Like poles repel, opposite poles attract. Have you ever heard of a monopole? Banani. Monopoly? Oh yeah, we play it every Thursday night at home. But what does Monopoly have to do with the Big Bang? Paco. No, Banani, not Monopoly, but monopole. A monopole is a hypothetical massive particle that would be like a magnet but with only one pole. Papaya. So a monopole would have either just a north pole or just a south pole, but not both? Paco. Exactly. Particle physicists claim that many magnetic monopoles should have been created in the high temperature conditions of the Big Bang. And since monopoles are stable, they should still be around today. Yet, despite extensive searches, no monopoles have been found. Ravioli. So where did all the monopoles go? Paco. The fact that we don't find any suggests that the universe was never that hot. This points to the conclusion that there never was a Big Bang, and it fits perfectly with the biblical account of creation, since the universe did not begin with infinite temperature. Part 11. Waiting Room. Paco is still on the line. Papaya. Okay, but maybe they were just wrong about that one. Paco. It's not the only mistake. Another serious problem for the Big Bang model is called the flatness problem. The rate of expansion of the universe seems to be very finely balanced with the force of gravity, This condition is known as flatness. If the universe were an accidental product of the Big Bang, it's hard to imagine how such an extraordinary coincidence could occur. Big Bang cosmology fails to explain why the matter density of the universe isn't greater, which would cause it to collapse in on itself, a closed universe, or smaller, causing it to rapidly expand, an open universe, ravioli, a perfect balance, just like God's other designs. Paco. The problem gets even worse if you go back in time. Since any deviation from perfect flatness increases as time goes on, it logically follows that the universe must have been even more precisely balanced in the past than it is today. Papaia. So, at the moment of the Big Bang, the universe would have had to be almost perfectly flat with incredibly high precision. Paco. Exactly. That must have been the case, assuming the Big Bang, even though the laws of physics allow for an infinite range of values. It's a coincidence that really stretches credibility. Ravioli. But if God created the universe, then we should expect these nearly perfect values. Paco. Absolutely. In the creation model, this kind of balance is expected because the Lord finely tuned the universe for life.
Part 12, Waiting Room. Paco is still on the line. Ravioli. Is it possible that nobody realizes this? It seems obvious to me. Paco. Many secular astronomers have come up with an idea called inflation to try to solve the flatness problem and the monopole problem, as well as other problems not covered here, like the horizon problem. Inflation proposes that the universe went through a temporary period of accelerated expansion. Surprisingly, there is no concrete evidence supporting inflation. It seems to be nothing more than an unproven conjecture, just like the Big Bang itself. Banani? Why am I not surprised at all? Paco. Moreover, the idea of inflation has its own difficulties, like what would start it and how it would stop smoothly. Also, other Big Bang problems remain unresolved, even if inflation were true. These are examined next. Consider the baryon number problem. Wait, Paco? My head is starting to hurt. Sorry, Ravioli. I know this is a lot of information, but please bear with me for a moment since time is short and you need to decide. Okay, I'm here. You can continue. According to the Big Bang, as the universe expands and cools, the first atoms of matter are created. So far, so good. These atoms are hydrogen and helium gases, the ones that give energy to stars. Exactly. However, experimental physics tells us that whenever matter is created from energy, such a reaction also produces antimatter. Antimatter has similar properties to matter, except particle charges are reversed. So while a proton has a positive charge, an antiproton has a negative charge. Any reaction where energy converts to matter produces exactly equal amounts of antimatter. No exceptions are known. Papaia, the Big Bang, should have produced exactly equal amounts of matter and antimatter, and that should be what we see today. But that's not the case. Where did the antimatter go? The Big Bang, which starts with no matter, only energy, should have produced exactly equal amounts of matter and antimatter, and that's what we should see today. But we don't. The visible universe is made almost entirely of matter, with only traces of antimatter anywhere. Basically, the Big Bang doesn't explain the reality we observe. Paco. This devastating problem for the Big Bang actually fits perfectly with biblical creation. It's a design feature. God created the universe essentially only out of matter, and it's a good thing he did. When matter and antimatter meet, they violently destroy each other. If the universe had equal amounts of matter and antimatter, as the Big Bang requires, life would not be possible. Part 13, Waiting Room. Paco is still on the line. Paco, the Big Bang model alone can only explain the existence of the three lightest elements, hydrogen, helium, and traces of lithium. That leaves about 90 other natural elements to explain. Ravioli? Oh, really? Yes, because the conditions in the Big Bang are not suitable for forming these heavier elements, as Big Bang supporters willingly admit. Secular astronomers believe that stars produce the remaining elements through nuclear fusion in their cores. It is thought this happens in the final stages of a massive star when it explodes, a supernova. The explosion then spreads the heavier elements into space. Second and third generation stars are thus contaminated by small amounts of these heavier elements. Ravioli, and that can't be? If this story were true, then the first stars would have been made only of the three lightest elements, since those would have been the only elements existing initially. Some of these stars should still exist today, since their potential lifespan is calculated to be longer than the age of the Big Bang of the universe. Ravioli. Wow. Paco. These stars would be called population 3 stars. Surprisingly, for those who believe in the Big Bang, population 3 stars have never been found anywhere. All known stars contain at least traces of heavy elements. It's surprising to think that our galaxy alone is estimated to have over 100 billion stars, yet not a single star composed only of the three lightest elements has been discovered. Ravioli. Maybe because they don't exist. With all the problems listed above, plus many others too numerous to mention, it's no surprise that several secular astronomers are starting to abandon the Big Bang. Papaia, so we're not alone. No, although it is still the dominant model today, a growing number of physicists and astronomers realize the Big Bang simply isn't a good explanation of how the universe began. Do you have any examples? In the May 22, 2004 issue of New Scientist, an open letter to the scientific community was published, written mainly by secular scientists questioning the Big Bang. These scientists emphasized that the numerous arbitrary assumptions and the lack of correct predictions by the Big Bang call the model's legitimacy into question. Among other things, they stated, ravioli, so every time they have to revise it, but the numbers still don't add up. Paco, exactly. Today, the Big Bang relies on a growing number of hypothetical entities, things we've never observed. Inflation, dark matter, and dark energy are the most obvious examples. Without them, there would be a fatal contradiction between astronomers' observations and the Big Bang Theory's predictions. In no other field of physics would such continual recourse to new hypothetical objects be accepted as a way to bridge the gap between theory and observation. Papaia, at the very least, this raises serious doubts about the validity of the core theory. Ravioli, so even the scientists admit there are too many problems. Yes, and that statement was later signed by hundreds of other scientists and professors from various institutions. The Big Bang seems to be losing considerable popularity. Secular scientists are increasingly rejecting the Big Bang in favor of other models. Banani, if the Big Bang were abandoned, what will happen to all the Christians who made compromises and claimed the Bible is compatible with the Big Bang? Exactly. What will they say? Will they claim the Bible actually doesn't teach the Big Bang, but rather the latest secular model? Secular models come and go, but God's word doesn't need to be changed because God spoke it perfectly right the first time. Now I understand. The Big Bang has many scientific problems. These problems are symptoms of a fundamentally wrong worldview. The Big Bang wrongly assumes the universe was not supernaturally created, but came about by natural processes billions of years ago. However, reality does not fit this notion. Paco? Exactly, Papaia. While biblical creation explains the evidence more straightforwardly, without the ubiquitous speculations found in secular models. But ultimately, the best reason to reject the Big Bang is that it contradicts what the very creator of the universe has taught. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. Everyone stay silent for a moment. Thank you, Paco. You've cleared things up for us. So, have you decided what you will do? What you said opened our minds, but now we need a minute to decide. All right, let me know then, Ravioli. Okay, thanks, Paco. You can count on us. Ravioli hangs up the phone. Part 14, Nasal, Waiting Room, shortly after silence. Still, the ticking of the wall clock marks the seconds. Banani says, so now, what do we do? Ravioli says, Paco is right, but we need the salary. How else will we live? Papaia suddenly stands up and says, you know what? Jack is right. Ravi says, what do you mean? Papaia says, in every way. We tell ourselves so many stories here, missions, science, projects. But if we're not even consistent with what we believe in, then what are we doing? Banani says slowly, you mean quitting nasal? Papaya says, I became a scientist because I love science. But now we've discovered that the truth isn't evolution, and no one listens to us. What should we do? Be fake scientists just for the money? No, that's not why I signed up. Ravioli says, yes, but the money? Who's going to pay us? Banani says, I agree with Ravioli. This is a leap into the dark. We leave, and then, what do? Igor stands up and says, hey, you can't leave me like this. And my Friday night show? How do I write the jokes without you? Papaya says, look, it might be little, but my cousin owns a telescope factory. He's always told me that when I want, the door is open for me. Ravioli, we should build telescopes? I don't know how. Banani says, what does it take, Ravioli? Just a little practice. And lots of duct tape. No. No, what do you think? It's about research. It's just a start. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll go back to doing real science. The kind that seeks the truth. Jack reappears in the doorway and says, I'll wait for your answer tomorrow. Call your cousin, Papaya. The four walk toward the exit, silently. They leave the waiting room behind them. The door slowly closes. Igor says, nice move by Jack, making Papaya come back tomorrow. Great idea. Knowing Papaya, his cousin gave that job away a couple of years ago already.